Hey, I am late. I am so sorry. I am so late today. You could probably guess why. Yeah, still working on those time management skills. But we will get there. We'll definitely get there. But all right. Oh, my mic is turned the wrong way. There we go. Ugh, it's so annoying. Okay. I'll have to tighten that later. But yes, for those who are watching after the fact, thank you so much for checking this out. I hope these messages will serve you well, especially if you get to watch it in time before the peak of this portal, should I say, this window of time. But welcome in. Good evening, good evening. I know, right? It's crazy actually, because I was like, I don't actually know how the heck I was able to do this. Bearing in mind, I'm still in a cast, right? So I'm actually quite proud of this one. But welcome, guys. How are you? How has your day been? Good evening, Lord Tobias. Kate, welcome in. Yeah, it was a weekend. No, Saturday was pretty busy. I was helping my mom move. So yeah, it was a lot. But yeah, luckily yesterday was a little bit more chilled. So it gave me a chance to recuperate. But how have you guys been? Good, I hope. It's good to be back on the live streams. It's been a minute, I know. But I tell you what, I definitely needed that downtime. So thank you for your patience. As you know, it's been a lot this past month, right? July was a lot. So I definitely needed a bit of downtime. And it also gave me a chance to get creative again, for creative ideas, fresh ideas to flow. So yeah, it was definitely needed. Oh, you did. Amazing. Good to hear. I didn't realize that was something that was coming up. I thought that was what had already happened. So, but no, I'm glad you managed to make it. Yeah, I definitely did. And I'm still going to be getting some rest in because it is needed. But yes, I'm just finding that balance. But yeah, welcome in, guys. Welcome, everybody. So I hope you are having a good day. And yeah, I'm excited to get into this message for you, okay? As you may already know, we are already in this portal. The window is open, okay, when it comes to the Lionsgate portal. It will peak on the 8th, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. But there is a lot when it comes to this energy, right? If you don't know what the Lionsgate is, it's essentially a celestial alignment between the earth, the sun being in Leo, and Sirius as well. Okay, so it makes a really nice harmonious alignment. And so it does create somewhat of a stargate. Okay, so it's a good opportunity to amplify whatever shifts you're looking to make at this time. Of course, a lot of the time people use it in relation to abundance, but you can use it in so many different ways, not just in terms of financial gain or prosperity in the traditional sense, but even for like improving your health, right? For improving your mood, shifting your frequency, shifting timelines. There's so much you can do with this portal, right? And it does piggyback off the Sirius portal that we had in July. So the two are actually interconnected, okay? In case you don't know that. So that actually peaked on the 7th of July, 7/7. And that sort of was the grand opening for this particular portal, okay? So they are interconnected. But the thing with this lunation is that it does require courage, okay? So there could be things at this time that's been coming up for you that you've had to finally sit down and face head on, okay? So there may have been some things that perhaps you haven't looked at for a long time. And it could be in relation to not just past circumstances or old timeline cycles that you're closing out, karmic clearing that you've been doing, but it can also pertain to our internal programs that we've been running on, right? The scripts, right, that have actually been detrimental to us, and finally breaking through that programming and integrating a new a new awareness, a new understanding, a new mode of operation, a new way of being, essentially. So with that, it does require courage, right? To make a change on such a deep level, not just on a DNA level, but also in terms of the psyche, the mind. It does ask a lot, right? And that's where that lion heart courage comes in. So that's something I do want to explore first before we get into the other side of it, okay, in terms of what changes could occur, right? So that's what we're going to be looking at first. I'm actually using a new deck today, okay? So I have a few decks I'm going to be using. The first one I'm using is the Dark Moon deck, okay, because this is really good for in terms of energies that we're currently working through and what is actually being released, okay? So that's what we're going to use first of all, and then we'll get into my other decks, okay? So let's see. So what is being uprooted in the collective consciousness as a whole at this time, right? Definitely rooted in our fears, doubts, reservations, the ways in which we shrink away from ourselves and the very things that we want, okay? So what is that that's coming up? What in relation to that is very much connected to the ego, the shadow, and past memory? What is that that's coming up? 19, find balance. Yeah. So the need to correct everything, the need to constantly course correct or find reason for adjustment, right? The ways in which we're always picking and always digging, right? So there's something about the black and white approach that's no longer going to serve us moving forward, okay? Seeing things from a very sort of dualistic viewpoint, okay? There's something about that dichotomy that's being highlighted very strongly, and I've been getting that for a while now, that this very sort of dualistic black and white way of navigating life is definitely shifting, especially now that we are in the age of Aquarius. It is bringing us into a new way of thinking, okay? A completely different line of inquiry, a different path that we didn't even know existed. Like I always say, everyone talks about, the right-hand path or the left-hand path. What about the most direct route right in the center, right? So that is what is being highlighted at this time, okay? So perhaps your perspective on certain things is shifting, is possibly even softening, right? Because you're able to see the nuance in things in a greater way, to a greater extent, and in more detail. So that's very interesting. Okay, so there may be some retrospect that's taking place, right? So you may be sort of being pulled back into past memories, and it's giving you an invitation, because that's essentially what it is. It's an invitation that's been extended to you to take a look at things from a different viewpoint. Okay, so perhaps in the past you just saw it as something that was detrimental, something that had no benefit whatsoever, or something that was very positive, and there is like a mourning or a longing for that. But it's like you're being afforded a completely different perspective, right? So that's very interesting. Okay, tell me more about this when it comes to what is shifting, what is released, or what is being released at this time for the collective. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, the arm is recovering well, I think. So I've got another week left and then I can take it out of the cast. So I'm happy about that. But thank you for asking. I appreciate it. Welcome in. All right, so tell me more about this energy. Look at this, the Black Madonna. And it's so funny because the first reading I actually pulled for myself using this card, using this deck the other day, I got this card as well, okay? And we have it here for the collective, so it makes sense, right? So, and you see how you have like the triple goddess motif behind her, the two crescent moons, and then that full moon behind her, almost like a halo. So this is about how we can best be of service to ourselves and others, right? The collective as a whole. So deeper compassion, right? So it's not a lessening of that. It's not the need to put up higher walls. It's about leaning into our heart space more, right? And operating from love rather than fear. Because they're all frequencies, right? But love is the most potent, most powerful, and transformative frequency. And this is speaking on divine love, okay? Your ability to see things from, again, a higher perspective, right? From a place of love, being grounded in your own energy, right? In your own truth, that this is essentially what you are on a core level. You are divine love. Everything else comes from maybe a lack of understanding or distortion or pain that you've experienced, right? But at your essence, on a core level, that's what you are. Everything else is just like accessories, right? But on a core level, you are divine love. That is your true essence, okay? And you being you is an expression of that, right? Everyone has their own flavor on it, right? We all have take different forms, have different appearances, right? Different experiences. But ultimately, this is what we are, okay? Divine love at the core. And so this is a remembrance. We know that we've been on a soul remembrance journey for some time now, right? But ultimately, we are coming back to the heart, okay? And guess what? The more we come home to our own heart, it's like we're welcome back home into the heart of source, right? It literally makes me think of that card from the Gateway Activations deck. So that's it, right? So that is the answer. That's how you overcome this paradigm, right? This very sort of linear, dualistic, polarizing way of life that we've been running around in circles in over and over and over. Every lifetime, every cycle, okay? This is how we transcend it, is coming back home to self, right? Home to source. And it's through love, it's through compassion, it's through understanding, it's through wisdom, okay? Yeah, I honestly feel like Sophia energy is very strong with this, right? Because obviously this is the Divine Mother, the Black Madonna. This is like the most primordial aspect of the Divine Mother, right? So again, what it represents on a core level. And you think about the sacrifices that mothers make just to bring life into the world, right? And then the rearing of children, the nurturing of children, right? They give so much, not just in terms of physical support and nourishment, right? But emotional enrichment, okay? But also in terms of guidance, right? They dedicate so much of their lives to providing the necessary experiences and lessons and support so that child can go on and lead their own lives, but having a good basis to work from, right? So that's why the Divine Mother's coming in, because it's like we've been in this sort of womb space, right? Again, the primordial mother, right? So we've been in the cosmic womb for some time, but now it's time to be birthed, hence Leo energy, right? This Lionsgate portal, this is the birthing. And we've been experiencing the birthing pains. That's why we've seen this fracture, right? We've seen this fracture that's been taking place in the collective consciousness. And we can see how it plays out in different scenarios, right? In life, on a collective level, and even in our own personal lives, right? That split that everyone's talking about, they are the birthing pains, right? But now the mother essentially is coming through to say, hey, right, it's time. But don't worry, you're not doing this alone. I know this is a big step. I know you're essentially showing up in a way that you've never done before. You're becoming more whole and unified than you ever have been, right? You're like more in alignment with your true essence than perhaps you even thought you could be. But you're not doing this alone, even though it does require you to take big steps, to leave what you knew behind, to break free out of this conditioning and programming and this sort of, like I say, very fractured paradigm that we've been operating and living under, right? But support is here, okay? I got you. You are not doing this alone. But now it's time to think outside of, the tit for tat and the little squabbles that we have. There is a bigger plan at play here. There's a bigger shift that's happening right now. So now is the time to step back away from our individual grievances and think about, what this means for the collective at large and the kind of precedent that we're setting now for future generations, okay? Because I'm telling you, we are navigating a time that is very unique, okay? And we've been afforded a very unique opportunity to get it right, to do things the right way, okay? And I don't mean in terms of one specific way. I just mean in a way, again, where we are operating from the heart and not from greed, from that corruption. So this is a return home. I'm telling you, this is big. Yeah, look, we've got 34 Hera at the bottom of the deck, right? She's a goddess, Greek goddess, right? Zeus's wife. So again, this mothering energy is coming through very strong. And it's to remind you of your own power, your own ability, right? To transform circumstances, right? and create real balance within yourself, within various circumstances, but also in the world. It starts with every single one of us. If we want to see more balance in the world, it starts with us. Every single one of us. We all have a role to play. It doesn't matter how big or small. It doesn't matter how much of an impact you think you can have, okay? Just take that out of the equation now. It's not about that, okay? Because you never know, as we say, you never know the impacts you can have. It doesn't always reach your ears, right? So don't even worry about that. It's about how can you contribute? What part can you do, right? That isn't going to demand everything of you, but is feasible for you to do, right? And that you genuinely want to do, not from a place of obligation, but because you genuinely care. Because that's what it's all about. It's reminding people that it's important to care, right? Like, I know it's so hard, right? It's easier to fall into apathy right now than to remain caring, compassionate, empathic, open, right? But that's exactly what's needed right now. That is what will transmute things, right? And again, you know, there are alternative ways to do things. There are better ways to do things than what we've witnessed up until this point, right? And how we've been conducting our lives up until this point. Hey, Shamika, welcome in. So yeah, this is what I'm getting with Hera here, right? You see how fruitful she is? All of this abundance, right? All of this nature behind her. We even have the pomegranate here. So there is knowledge, there is wisdom that's being shared with us, okay? But we have to be open to it and be willing to work with it. So divine insights are coming in, okay, to help us sort of dispel this old way of thinking, this old way of navigating this paradigm, the 3D, right? This very linear, very dualistic way of looking at things, you know, because we know there's a lot of gray matter, okay? Things are rarely ever that black and white. There's a lot of nuance, okay? But I feel like that is what's being clouded strongly for a lot of people right now. You know, and we can see it. We can see it with the way people discuss things and the arguments they have, you know. I just feel like there is a real lack of that, you know, critical thinking and nuance. But that's what's being brought back into full view at this time, okay? Because it's easy to hate when you're not seeing the other side of the coin, right? So I feel like that's what this is about. This is about transforming hate into love. And it's coming from a place of compassion, understanding, seeing the bigger picture, seeing the nuance in things, okay? Just like a mother, you know, it's giving that energy. Unconditional love here. And again, it's not to say that you entertain anything and everything from people, but just, you know, taking a step back and seeing things in a different way, you know? Because I think that, you know, this is what is needed at this time, okay? Whoa, I just threw my cards everywhere. Okay, let me see what's left. Oh, wow, that makes perfect sense. Look, responsibility, right? We all play a role. We all play a part. We are all responsible. We all have a role to play. We all have an influence over how our reality is shaped, right? So I'm telling you, like, we are instrumental in the creation of our lived experiences, okay? And so it's like, if you want to see a different picture, it's up to you to paint it. Don't wait for the next person. If there's something you can do and the power is in your hands, you have the capability, you have the knowledge, right? You have the knowledge. You have the ability to do something about it. Do it, okay? Why are you going to wait for someone else to act when you can act? When you are actually being called to act, right? So the land of indecision, that's something else that's coming up as well. Yeah, exactly. 3, inner critic. And it could have a lot to do with that. Again, being overly critical. Being critical with yourself, others, right? Not seeing the the nuance in the situation, or possibly there is information that you're not currently aware of, but you have to be open to that, right? So this is what I'm getting, like we can nitpick at each other all day long, or we can nitpick at ourselves all day long, but ultimately it's not going to change anything. If we want to see real change, we need to think differently, take a different approach, right? And that's what the Black Madonna is coming in to remind us, right? That it's time to change our approach, change our line of thinking, right? And instead of making it someone else's problem or saying, oh, well, that's got nothing to do with me. It's like, okay, well, I can assist and I want to assist. So let me do my part. I'm not going to be responsible for everything. I'm not responsible for someone else's happiness, right? There's certain steps they need to take. But if I can help, why not? Why does there have to be some other reason or agenda? Why don't I do that? Just like, if someone is in a position where they can support me, help me, or show me kindness, why not? And if I'm in a position where I can do something for myself, make things better for myself, why not? Why am I going to wait for someone else to rescue me when I can act myself? You know what I mean? So these are the energies that's coming through, right? Exactly. Look, 29 Medusa. This is it, right? If we are sick of seeing injustice and imbalance and corruption and, just things being so lopsided in the world, right? Instead of being just angry about it and, complaining and the hate just growing and becoming more divided, why don't we take steps to actually create real justice in the world, right? And that is by choosing different. And that's by setting new standards, setting new precedents, norms, okay? The social norms we've seen in the world had to have come from somewhere, right? And that's through general consensus. So just as at one point we have unknowingly, unwittingly consented to things that we are not actually in agreement with, we can take that back, okay? And say, no, this is what we consent to. This is the new standard. This is the new norm, right? And this is rooted in basic principles, right? That benefit the greater good of all, not just a particular person, a particular group, okay? Just basic standard, principles that will make cohabiting so much easier and more pleasant as well, right? Because you've got to think of the story of Medusa. She is the symbol of great injustice, right? And what it means to have your power taken from you. But she is also a reminder that you can always take it back, right? And that's by the actions that you take, the principles that you stand on, right? Her only mistake is that she went to another, in this case, Athena, right? The very goddess that she worshipped, hoping that she would get this justice for her, right? And instead she punished her instead, even though she was the victim, right? So it's a reminder of your own agency and autonomy. You don't have to seek justice through a system that is corrupt, right? You can seek justice by setting a new standard, right? And saying this is something that will no longer fly, right? You just by being very defiant and standing in your truth, you'll be surprised at how many people will support you, right? Look at how many movements are taking place across the world right now, right? Because someone said, I've had enough. And it's not just about my personal experience. I am sick of this particular injustice taking place. So this is what we're doing, right? This is what I'm doing. If you're on board, if you agree with me, right? Let's change this. Let's improve this. Let's work together. Let's find solutions together, right? And we're literally seeing that happen, okay? There is a shift that's taking place, right? But in order for that to happen, that which doesn't serve the collective had to be exposed. Everything that's being done in a way that's kind of covert, but, it's still visible at the end of the day, let's face it, right? But being done in such a way where, there is plausible deniability or even just, because the system is geared in such a way currently that it protects perpetrators rather than victims. This is something that needs to be challenged and is being challenged. And because it continues to be challenged and these conversations take place and essentially a new standard is being set, it is ultimately changing it. Okay. But again, in order for that to happen, you have to be willing to be brave, to be bold, to stand on business and say, this is wrong. Okay. We saw like finding balance here, right? Again, how can we create balance in life? How can we actually create justice? How can we create fairness, more equality? Okay. Improve things for the all, like I say, not just a select few. So these are the kind of things that are coming through. Okay. There's a lot of healing that's coming through with this as well. And again, the ego is going through a major transformation with this portal, because obviously there's a lot of wounding to the ego that's taken place for a lot of people within the collective, right? The collective ego itself is wounded, right? It's been basically shown through various things coming to light that the collective doesn't matter. And that's not true at all. But that's basically the messaging we've been fed over and over and over. But the truth is, right, without the collective, what is there, right? When it comes to us as a species, I'm not talking about other forms of life. But if you look at the species alone, if you remove the collective, i.e. the majority of us, right, then what is left? A few beings, right? How well do you think they will do by themselves? Not very well. Okay, it's been proven over and over that doesn't tend to work very well. Even those who have tried to like ostracize everyone else and start something of their own from a very distorted lens, it ends up failing, right? It always does. So this is the point, right? Look at this, 18, overcritical. So now is the time to stop bickering over things that in the grand scheme of things are not important and to focus on what is, okay? And that is, what kind of future are we creating? What kind of legacy are we leaving behind? Okay, because everyone's saying that they want something greater, right? So what do we do about it? How are we going to create that greater? Because it can't be doing things the way we've done it up until this point. It doesn't work. Okay, so that means we've got to be open to new ideas, new perspectives, new approaches, okay, new problem solving, thinking outside of the box. I mean, that's very Aquarian energy, right? Aquarian energy is to think outside of the box for the greater good, right? It's very humanitarian, and that's definitely the theme that's coming up here, okay? Absolutely. Wow, I was talking about this last night. How uncanny. Have you heard of the work of Dr. Ian McGilchrist? I need to send you some of his work. It's about ensuring we use our right-handed brain as the world has become too left-brain in thinking. It absolutely has, right? And that's the problem. You need to be using both hemispheres, right, simultaneously. Because if you're too much in if you're too much in right brain thinking, then you can get lost in imagined possibilities, right, and ideas, but never actually do anything with it. And it can also lead you down a path of illusion as well. So you do need to be using the left brain as well, right? The left side of the brain, the left hemisphere, because that is your logic, that is your reasoning skills, critical thinking, that's your ability to process data, right? On that level. But you need both, okay? Because without the right side, I mean, you're just basically a machine, right? I mean, the right side of the brain is directly connected to your imagination. That is where all creativity comes from, right? That is your connection to inspiration and ideas and, having these sort of seemingly spontaneous solutions arrive, like these eureka moments, epiphanies. Yeah. So you need both, right? And that's the problem. So we need that balance to be restored. And that's essentially what's happening, So everything that's rooted in imbalance and distortion, that's what's being revealed at this time, okay? And that energy is being amplified so that we are essentially pushed to act, okay? But we can't be forced to actually act. That's up to us, right? But again, all the ways in which you've held yourself back or you felt held back when it comes to taking action, that is being shown to you right now. So wherever you've been seeing that reflected back at you, that's what you need to press through, okay? So fears, doubts, reservations, any guilt, any regrets, remorse, any anger, any feelings of like hate or disdain, bitterness, all of that stuff is being uprooted right now, okay? Especially for those who have been very serious about this journey, that want to transcend this for good, then the only way out is through, and I feel like a lot of people are not seeing that about this portal, right? That it's about facing your fears head on, because otherwise, what would be the need for courage, right? And that's the bit that a lot of people are missing right now, to be able to get to the other side where you want to be, to show up as the person you always knew you were, right? On a core level, and live the life that you knew that you were destined for. You have to face your fears. The only obstacle between you and that existence is that mirror. So you have to gaze into it if you want to transcend it. So let's see. So what else is required when it comes to this to be able to really capitalize on this energy, this portal? Control. Exactly. Where have you been surrendering control? Who you've been giving control over you? Where have you been scrambling for getting control back over your life? Have you been trying to exert some kind of control in some shape or form on someone else, or try to force things to happen that are not for you, that are not aligned for you, right? All of these things are coming up right now. So the situations where you feel powerless, where you feel like something else has some kind of control or hold over you, that's being highlighted, right? Because again, there's something within that that's illusionary. It only has as much influence, power, and control over you as you give it. So that's what you're being shown right now. And just like if you've been overexerting some kind of control over a situation or a person, that is going to be reflected as well, right? Or if you've been trying to force things to happen, a situation to happen, or an opportunity or something like that to come about, right? That isn't actually in your best interest, it's going to show you. You're going to see exactly why that can't happen. Okay, so that's very interesting. Look, see, dream. Your dreams are very significant. That I can attest to myself. Okay, your dreams are very significant because I feel like these things are being shown to you in the dream state, especially if you are having very vivid dreams right now. For those who have been going through major activations at this time, your dreams are going to be really vivid, sorry. Really, really vivid, okay? So do pay attention to the symbolism, the imagery, okay, the feelings, the thoughts, the experiences that you have in the dream state, because it directly speaks on what it is that you are purging, releasing, or what is requiring change at this time, right? Especially when it comes to power dynamics and that which has been keeping you small, stopping you from feeling as though you can make this leap here, okay? I've actually been on debates last week. I totally resonate. Also, there's a film on here called The Divided Brain. Okay, nice. I'll have to check it out. All right, so let's see what else when it comes to what is being released. Yeah, subconscious. We know there's a lot of unconscious programming that's being rewritten, okay? It's massive. And that's why I say, a lot of this work happens in the dream state. A lot of it happens when you are asleep or in a deep rested state, right? So that's why right now, very much pay attention to your dreams, because it is going to show you what you are working through, what you're actually healing, okay? Especially if in past situations where you felt as though your hands were tied, that you felt powerless to affect change in a situation, even if it wasn't something that happened to you directly. If it's something you witnessed, for example, and you felt like you couldn't do anything about it, right? That's coming up for healing right now. And again, these situations where you feel like there's been major injustices, where you feel like, there's been a lot of imbalance and turmoil and conflicts and strife, right? All of this is being uprooted right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of like and a lot of things connected to like trauma that's coming up. Okay, so if there is, be very gentle with yourself. Again, we saw that critical card. Don't be overly critical of how you feel or how it affects you, because you've got to remember this is very deep healing. So the process of healing that can be painful in the moment, so you have to go easy on yourself. Yeah, you have synchronicity coming up here. Okay, so you're going to be seeing that there are things that are shifting in your reality that's reflecting what's happening on an internal level as well. A lot of synchronistic events, circumstances, conversations, moments, right? But it's again, it's reflective of this process. But this is what's happening on a collective level, okay? And it is hitting us on an individual level as well. Like, it's literally like you're having a conversation with your shadow right now, And if you've been doing that work, believe me, right? Your shadow is talking because you're actually listening. So if you are seeing these things and you're like, oh, why am I being shown this? Or why am I dreaming about that? Or why am I seeing a lot of content or hearing conversations about this? I don't want to think about that. I don't want to look about. I don't want to look at that. This is why. Because you are healing it and you've opened that line of communication with your shadow. So your shadow is divulging the truth to you at this time as to what it is that you've been held back by, what's been literally robbing you of your power, right? And making you feel powerless. But that's your opportunity to break through that glass ceiling. Because again, that glass ceiling doesn't actually exist. It only exists in the mind, right? In the psyche. And that's what you're breaking through. Wow. Exactly. That's exactly what it's giving you, the opportunity to do so. And once you do, it will open the floodgates to your abundance in every shape and form, whatever you could possibly conceive of, right? This stream, right? So that's what lies on the other side of this process for you. Everything you could possibly need and want, that really aligns with you, that really speaks to you on a heart level. Exactly. This is your final hurdle, guys. This is it. This is the final hurdle. The only thing that's coming between what you want and where you're at now is that blockage, that fear, right? So, wow. Okay, so we are going to move over to the other decks now. Just bear with me 1 second. Yes, I need that. Oh, it's on the other side, and I need this. Okay. I feel emotionally stronger than I have in years. Well, that's great, And that, again, is testament to the work you've been doing, right? So, but this is it. Even if you have moments where you feel sad or you feel overwhelmed or you feel like, wow, I just feel like there's a big weight that's coming off. This is why, okay? It's part of this process. But again, this is only one side of it, right? We looked at one side of the coin. We're looking at the other now. So we're going to see, like, with this sort of transformation, this transmutation that's taking place right now, okay, these major activations that have been underway, and it's purging out all of this unconscious programming, right? This subliminal messaging that's been lodged in your psyche, these ways of looking at things, mindsets that we've had for the longest time, right? These beliefs, especially, right? Limiting beliefs. All of that is being transmuted right now, okay? So let's look at that and what that's actually opening. Look at that. Perfect. What did I tell you about rebirth, right? Osiris, death and rebirth, transformation, resurrection. That's exactly it. You're going through a resurrection right now, okay? And a rebirth. It's like who you really are on a core level is being resurrected. The old you, the old paradigm, the old status quo, all of that is what's ending. And what's beginning is this new life, this new way of approaching life, okay? This new perspective. It's totally different, It is like being reborn here, but being reborn in godhood. Like that's the energy I'm getting, right? It's like you're resurrecting in your sort of true essence, right? In your true divinity. but here in the physical and material plane. So it's like the true enmeshment and balance and harmony between the divine self, spirit, and the physical self, right? And the ego. There is a balance that's taking place there, hence finding balance, right? Wow. Okay, so this is major. It's really hard to put it in words that gives it, that really, does it justice, because this is an immense process. I mean, it's game changing. It really is. It is absolutely life changing. Wow, tell me more about this. It's like it literally is like a god or a goddess awakening, right? And it's funny because you think about the Interview of the Vampire series, right? I don't watch it, but I've been seeing so much marketing around Akasha and her resurrection. She like awakens and she's this wrathful goddess, right? And I just feel like it's so connected with this process. But that is from one side, okay? Again, that's still coming from an energy of distortion, the anger, the rage, and not having an appropriate channel for it that's actually healthy or beneficial, right? So, the messaging is distorted there. But what I will say is it's still connected to this, right? This sort of resurrection. Yeah, it's very interesting. But anyway, so we have Mount Sinai, true ascension, divine revelation, absolute oneness. This is it. This is exactly what it is. Okay, this has been a long spiritual journey, but you are coming home to yourself at last, okay? And so, yes, you are going through one of the most powerful rebirths of your life, especially if you see this through, okay? And like I say, between now and the 8th of August, whatever is coming up for you to essentially face, right? If you do that, this is literally what's happening, right? You will go through a resurrection, literally. It's like almost coming back to default settings, okay? So like your purest essence, right? But with all of the knowledge and wisdom and experience that you've cultivated over a lifetime. So imagine how powerful that makes you, right? Imagine like if you were a fresh, powerful soul that's just come straight from the heart of source, but you have all of this knowledge and insight and wisdom and lived experience from lifetimes. Imagine how powerful you will be as a result. That's what you're stepping into should you see this through. Okay? And belief is a big part of this, okay? True ascension, divine revelation, absolute oneness. That's the point, right? Because again, the divide, right? Divide and conquer, that is the best tactic. That is the old playbook. It's worked for the longest time, but people are slowly starting to transcend that. They see it for what it is, right? A lot of people do. Some people are still falling into that because, obviously there is pain that people are navigating, right? And it's not easy to see the bigger picture when you're in it, right? But that's why it's up to the people who are able to hold this truth, this frequency, and see the bigger picture, right? To hold the torch, right? To lead the way, essentially, and let them know that they don't stand alone, okay? That's very important. And that's another thing, the disconnect. That's what we need to heal, okay? And we can only do that, first of all, within ourselves, and then on like a communal level, and it grows from there. So this is amazing, but this is about unity consciousness. That is the point. That's what this is leading to, unity consciousness. And we know that humans are going through an evolutionary upgrade. We are literally like experiencing that now. But the problem is there's a lot of resistance. And that's what this portal will help cut through. The resistance to that, because again, there is this over identification with the ego and the persona and the identity that we have created. But the more you're willing to sort of work with that loosely, right, and identify as your true self and not as the social construct, right, and recognize that you are this whole infinite being, right? That is inherently part of source, right? It's easier, right, to work through that, right? And the resistance will lessen. Is this like Sophia's redemption after the deluge? You could say that. You could say that, right? This is like the healing of that, right? It's like that fracture that was created, right? The fracture that was created is now healing, you know? It's healing. It doesn't mean it will revert back to as if it never happened, because obviously all of this is in existence and it's not going to disappear, but it's going to heal in such a way that it's no longer going to cause so much pain and chaos and disruption, right? And difficulty. Look at this. See, Queen, divine sovereignty, sacred authority, loving power. What did I say? Claiming your power back. That's how, essentially, that's why the mother has been guiding the process. It's like you don't just heal yourself. By healing yourself, you heal the collective. You heal the collective, you heal the mother. You know? That's it. Because again, there is no separation, right? We are her. We are of her, right? We are her children, right? So that's why we have Osiris here as well, right? The father. It is the mother that resurrects the father, right? We know there's been a lot of distortion with that messaging as well, but it's true. Isis, right, is the one that helps to bring back Osiris with love, care, compassion, a lot of effort, right? And she's the one that births Horus, right? The divine child. So this is what I mean. So it's bringing a lot of healing on all levels, right? But again, it's up to you to take your power back, right? And stand in sovereignty. Yeah. And that's why Queen is here. Again, divine sovereignty, sacred authority, loving power, leading from the heart. That has been the message over and over and over, right? And you know that's something I stand on very strongly myself, right? It's not about throwing your weight around. It's about, can you see someone, right? Can you show them that compassion and understanding when they feel like they can't even possibly give it to themselves in that moment, or they feel like they've not received it? Let me tell you as well, I posted a message about how we are grateful you exist. That was the message. Like, I'm grateful you exist. We are grateful you exist, right? The amount of people that wrote on that message in the comments, especially on Facebook, right? The amount of comments and just people opening up to the point where people were leaving poems, right? It inspired people to the point where several people actually wrote a poem just expressing their truth, expressing their heart, right? That's what I mean. That is so powerful. Love will change everything. And it does, right? And that's the thing. The people connected with it because it was coming from the heart. It was genuine and they felt it. It wasn't just the words. The words were very simple, but the frequency, they felt it. They connected with it. And that's why so many people told me, thank you. I didn't know I needed to hear that. Right? And again, it wasn't about pretty words. It was what they felt. That's what people need reminding of, right? For people to stand in their power, they need to remember what love is. But they need to feel it within themselves, you know? And just like I say, being someone who can carry that torch, you don't know what you can activate within another. Like, wow, I haven't felt that, I haven't seen that in the longest time, you know? So never underestimate your influence, okay? Yeah, pyramids, multi-dimensional channel, divine alignment, cosmic capacities. Yeah. So this is essentially what it is, right? You become a conduit for these very high vibrational frequencies, for these transmissions, these light codes, right? For the assistance that's available to us. Just like the pyramids are like a transmitter, they're like an antenna, right? They literally connect those frequencies from space. from the higher planes of existence even to here on the 3D, the earth. We ourselves can also operate in the same way as conduits, right? It's giving like pillar of light energies, reminding me of that card. Wow, it's so funny. The cards just slid away. And guess what card came out? Sekhmet. Empowerment, divine strength, warrior of light. And that's the point. That's why I mentioned the marketing around Akasha, because divine rage has a place and a purpose, but it's all about how you channel it. Obviously, in that depiction, it's channeled in a very unhealthy and detrimental way, right? But Sekhmet energy, which is what our character is based on, let's face it, right? It's about having the wisdom to know how to use it in a better way, right? Because obviously Sekhmet's story is that, you know, she is checking humanity for its lack of morality and the fact that it's not, I mean, that's the thing with her story. A lot of people say, oh, it's because the reason Ra basically projected her from his eye and sent her on a warpath was because humans weren't worshipping the gods anymore. It goes deeper than that. It's not just because humans weren't worshipping the gods or having reverence for the gods. It was because of it was the moral decay. That's what triggered it, right? The event was the lack of morality, principle, okay, integrity. It was the corruption, like what we've been seeing in the world, okay? And so she was sent out to clean up shop, right? That's essentially it. So to deal with the unjust, right? But the thing is, obviously, there was so much cleaning up to do that she got almost like bloodlust, right? And went on an absolute warpath. Okay. So that was the problem, right? Because she had so much to clean up and she became like, you know, blood crazed essentially. Yeah. Ra had to think of how to call her back because she wasn't listening and she'd gone off the deep end, right? That's why wisdom is so important. That's why when he was able to lead her to the Nile with wine, which was, you know, it was wine, but it looked like blood, she actually transformed, right? In that moment, she became Hathor, right? Which is synonymous with, again, the divine mother, wisdom, okay, nurturing. It is the compassion and mercy side of Sekhmet's energy, okay? So it's a reminder that there's a time and a place for everything. There has to be balance. We saw that in the beginning, right? Finding balance. We've seen the distortion where, you know, the collective has been more filled with like anger and hate and wanting to take it out on each other and allowing themselves to be divided rather than recognizing like who really is at fault here, right? And what do we do about it? And also, what role are we individually playing into it, right? If we're not on board with it, how do we change it? How do we implement a better way of life, right? How do we set the standard? Because the standard is so low. How do we improve it? Where can we find common ground? Okay. That's where the wisdom comes in. But again, you know, that doesn't mean you forget how to be a sovereign being, right? With empowerment, divine strength, warrior of light. There's a time for everything. Like I always say, you need to know when to use the sword and when to offer the rose. That's what this message is about. Okay, because for a lot of us, we've been in the trenches for the longest time and we've had no choice but to wield the sword back and forth. Okay, but it gets to a point where we say, when can we put the sword down? Okay, when can we put the sword down? You see the lotus here? Because at this point, it's not about proving anything. You have nothing to prove, right? Your divinity is its own. It speaks for itself. There is no need for explanation, right? But it's about how can we create a more harmonious way of life so we don't feel like we always have to be wielding the sword, right? But again, don't forget that these experiences have helped to shape you into the person that you are. It has helped you to become this sovereign being, right? So it's not like the warrior isn't necessary or needed, but you don't have to always be in this energy, right? It's about getting back into this state of being, right? The regal energy, but knowing when it's needed for you to be in that mode as well, you know? Yeah, so that's what I'm getting here, okay? So there are some major changes that are occurring. Wow, I didn't even see that. That's wild. Anubis, transition, divine protection, safe passage. What did I say? There's so much divine support, it's not even funny. We literally have the mother, right? With the Black Madonna, and now we have the father with Osiris, okay? It's oh, you know how people say, oh, it's like it's like God abandoned humanity, right? It's been out of the picture. Have you heard people say that, right? They feel like, God basically just left us to it, like, and that's why the world is in chaos. Yeah, it feels almost like it's not the source has abandoned us. It's almost like source has been going through a transformation, right? Is resurrecting, or like source's presence is going to become more tangible in a way. I don't know how to best put it, but you know what I mean. It's like, because obviously, we have that inherent connection, right? It's in all things. There is no separation, but it's almost like this the very essence, the signature of source is going to be more prevalent, is kind of what I'm getting here. That's kind of the energy. So it's very interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like that, right? Because again, it's not that the frequency isn't there, but it's like you have to be a match to it, right? You have to be resonant with that frequency to perceive it, right? So again, to be a conduit for it, right? With this pyramid energy here. But that's what this upgrade would afford you. It will afford you the ability to be able to connect with it on a deeper level. And I've been getting that for a while here. Yeah, look, we have the moon, softness, intuitive intelligence, divine feminine mystery, right? And that's the point, right? It's like the way out is through. You had to go through this death rebirth. You have to go through this own personal resurrection of the ego, right? And it required somewhat of a collapse of the ego because there was an over identification with the persona that you have in the world and this sense of self that isn't actually real. It's just a means to an end, right? Yes, it doesn't mean that you can't have fun with it, right? Of course, right? You are here to live an experience. You're here to, experience life as you, but you shouldn't over identify with the physical, the tangible. And that's the problem. That is the nutshell here, right? The over identification with the 3D, with the material. That is what's being transmuted. Okay. So, because that at a core level is what has led to all of the things that we've been discussing, all of the issues, right? Is the over identification with the physical and the lack of awareness of the spiritual, right? Of our eternal nature, of our divine nature, you know? So that's essentially what it is. So this is like the mystery that's kind of being unveiled through this softening process, through this understanding that, you know what? Yeah, this is essentially what it is, right? This obsession with having power and influence and more and more and more. If you look at the top 1%, right? You have everything in the world. What more could you possibly want? And it's still not enough. Because that's the point. If you over identify with the physical, you are bankrupt. Okay. If you're not in tune with your higher nature, you are bankrupt. It doesn't matter how much you receive or you attract or you take in the physical, right? If you're this divorced from source, right? On a spiritual level, you're always going to feel like it's never enough. You're always going to feel like you're bankrupt, you know? So this is what's coming to the awareness of the collective. Like, yeah, there has to be a more meaningful, more connected way of going about things, right? So there is a remembrance taking place, right? It's like humanity is finally remembering itself, that we're not just meaningless. We're not just shuffling around like ants, and even ants, they're not meaningless, obviously, but you know what I mean? Like, we're not just like mindless bots here, We are divine beings. We are sovereign beings, right? So we need to start operating in the world as such and working together as such, right? Because the way, a lot of people operating right now, you wouldn't think that we are as evolved as we are. If we're being very honest, right? The same fights and struggles that people have over, like, again, rooted in identity, the 3D, So it's like we need to transcend that, okay? And it helps by not over identifying with the 3D. Hopefully you guys get what I mean and it makes sense, okay? But that's essentially what it is, Wings, ascension, angelic infinite, divine impact. Exactly. This is it, right? This is it. So that is the breakthrough that's happening, right? It's this soul remembrance, remembering your divinity, right? And it's not that you don't have your wings, it's just remembering they were there in the first place, right? So remembering you're this divine being and you always were. And I know people say all the time, like, yeah, I know I'm a divine being, but yeah, it's another thing to actually like truly know it, right? To live as such. So yeah, interesting. Let me just, what is this? This is weird. Okay. Anyway, so let's continue. So yeah. Oh, that's so funny. I was talking about it. Look who came out. Horus. Higher vision, new earth leadership, protection. You see? We talked about that, right? The sun child, and we have Horus here. So again, I'll say it. Higher vision, new earth leadership, protection, a new way of doing things, right? The new earth that people talk about, it's here. The frequency is here, but it's about what you do with it, right? So that's the question. Look, see, I cannot make this up. We saw Sekhmet, yeah? Look who's here. Ra, source creation, solar codes, timeline architect. This is perfect. I mean, come on. This is what I mean. Source's energy is going to be very prevalent, right? And again, we are going to be able to connect with it on a deeper level, right? Like there is no separation, obviously. But it's like in order to remember source and remember this line of connection and be able to strengthen it, we had to remember ourselves first, right? Who we really are, So this is amazing, But I honestly feel like, yeah, I mean, eagles are very significant, but I feel like his watchful eye has always been over us, right? And I say he, it's not he. Source is the I am, but yeah, watchful eye. And look at this, high priestess, divine knowing, ancient one, goddess embodied. This is it, right? This is the embodiment. This is the process to true embodiment, right? To operating as a true divine being. The rainbow bridge, come on now. Ancient future, living light, realms weaving. You see these colors? You see my eyeshadow? If you see these colors, okay, this is confirmation that this is what you're experiencing, okay? So the fact you're even seeing this is confirmation. Ancient future, living light, realms weaving. You are directly influencing your reality in a major way. And especially after this, I'm telling you, if you work with this portal in this way, right? Where you overcome your fears, you stop living from fear, you stop dimming your light, you stop pretending to be something lesser, and you just show up as you are, not needing to prove anything, not needing to throw your weight around, but just being. I'm telling you, you will literally bridge realms. Not only will you be in communion and conversation, right, with source in a very profound way, but you will literally be the bridge between realms. You'll be like an emissary. This is wild. We have the Ankh, key of life, divine geometry, new world architects. It keeps coming up. The creation of the new, right? This is what we're being tasked with because we're ready, guys. I'm telling you, we are ready. It's time, okay? Nile, surrender, abundance, life force energy, right? The surrendering the need to try and fight the old, control the old, right? Letting go of anyone or anything that's trying to pull us into these old paradigms, right? and just letting it all go so we can focus on where we're headed, what we're creating now, right? We're not fighting the old, we are creating the new. And that's it. That's what people need to realize. Fighting the old is futile. It is already collapsing. What we need to focus on is what we establish in its place, right? As I've been saying for the longest time. So, you feel like there's major injustices when it comes to this. Okay, how do we tackle it? How do we change it? Right? How do we set a new standard? Right? And I'm telling you, status quos, societal norms are changing, right? And it has a lot to do with coming back from a place, operating from a place of compassion and understanding, right? And not trying to control and have everyone be the same. That's never going to work, okay? We are not meant to fall in line. We are not robots, okay? But it's about having some kind of common ground, okay? And respecting everyone's divine right to lead a happy, healthy, and fulfilled life, right? That's everyone's divine right. So, but of course, those who are in a position where they're trying to abuse others or abuse their power, then they're not going to be a part of this new paradigm. It's that simple, okay? Because that's not what they're choosing. They're choosing the old. So they will fall with it. It's as simple as that, without anyone having to say or do anything. It's that simple. We have High Council of Light, Ascended Masters, Divine Leadership, Collaborative Purpose. This is it, right? We've got a lot of support. I cannot stress it. Okay? A lot of support. Literally, High Council of Light. That is like the Council of Nine, the Ascended Masters, right? There is a lot of support coming in. And I'm telling you, you guys, you don't even know. Some of you guys are literally being tapped on the shoulder to do something specific. Because you can, because you have the knowledge, you have the skill, you have the ability, right? You have the idea, the concept, Amazing. Yeah. So you are being forged into the person that will believe you can and you will. Okay? You can and you will. Because that was the problem. It was never that you weren't good enough or you weren't divine enough or anything like that. The problem was your lack of belief, right? And the fears, all of the fears or past experiences, anything that would stop you in believing that you can do this, right? And you are this being. That's what's being dismantled in front of you right now. That is what's directly being presented to you, what those blockages are. And for the most part, it is psychological. It is like we saw in the unconscious, right? But you see this energy that's coming out as a result, though. This is being fully realized, fully embodied as a sovereign divine being, right? Seeing, literally operating as one with source. Like, this is very powerful. Emerald Tablet, Alchemy, Universal Laws, Conscious Creation. And that's the point. Because your consciousness is expanding, you're more intentional with what you create and how you create and what you're infusing it with, right? Because again, you've got this higher perspective, right? This expanded awareness that's coming in. So it's like, oh my gosh, like you're literally going to be operating on a quantum level, right? So it's like all these different possibilities are already going to be accounted for. I'm telling you, it's part of the upgrade. Yeah, with Horus, I'm telling you, that's part of the rebirthing. That's part of the upgrade. Wild. Okay. So of course, when it comes to manifesting things that are like in the tangible, right? Like, oh, I want more money, or I want a different career or something like that. That's honestly, compared to what we're seeing here, that's like child's play, honestly. Again, dream bigger, think bigger, right? Yeah, that's nothing compared to what we're seeing here. So this is very powerful. Okay, so let's see. So what is the parting advice then? The crab has one food and water and one on land. Yeah, but that's what I feel like is changing, right? The land of indecision, and it's coming from resistance, right? Fear. But that's what we're being tasked with overcoming, navigating through, right? Metamorphosis, profound change, self-awareness. This is the death card. So you see the rebirth, the transformation. You know what that reminds me of? For those who have seen Jujutsu Kaisen, right? I know Tobias has. The part where Gojo thinks he's been, he's down on the ground, he's badly injured. Toji thinks he's taken him out, he's done his job. But what happens is Gojo actually goes through an ascension. He didn't even realize how powerful he was. He had only scratched the surface of his abilities, his gifts, right? And so after that, he becomes more powerful, right? He's using infinity all of the time. That's why his eyes are blindfolded, because he doesn't even need to see, right? He only takes the blindfold off when he's fully opening up his gifts, right? This is the energy here. It's like you're going through an ascension process where you're going to start to actually realize just how powerful you are. It's like you're being, like the truth of your true nature is being unveiled in real time. So you don't even know. And that's the thing. Human beings have no idea what their capabilities are. But for some, this is what you're going to awaken to. Yeah, Six of Wands, advancement, recognition. Exactly. Once you fully actualize in this way, you're going to be unstoppable. Nothing will be able to get in your way. You set your mind on something, you will accomplish it. It's like all limitation is off. Limitless, right? Literally. Like Gojo, limitless. All limitations are off. There is no glass ceiling, right? There are only different realms of exploration. Wow. This is like, whew. I've never had quite an energy like this before. And that's the point. We have never tapped into an energy like this before. Wow. Okay. Like it is like next level. It is literally that. All right. Give me one more. Give me one more. The Tower. Earth shattering. Whoa. So we have disruption, conflict. Yeah. That's the thing. It is going to change things, right? And not everyone is ready for what comes with that, okay? There is going to be a certain level of upheaval, but it's only going to be temporary, right? Because like I say, the fracture, right? The fracture that's been taking place, it will heal, but obviously it's going to be exacerbated first because it's going to be very apparent who's going through this process and who isn't, right? So it will temporarily create upheaval, but it won't last. That's what I can tell you, okay? It will shift in a very healthy and positive way. Exactly. The Hermit, contemplation, soul searching. It will trigger people, but it has to. Okay, that's the point. It needs to trigger people because otherwise they're going to find themselves in a position that they never want to be in, because, every time you go around that karmic loop, it gets worse and worse and worse, right? And so that's why when people say like, oh, either we're going to see like a complete, sort of technological dystopia, or we're going to see like this new earth and everything's going to flourish. Actually, we're going to see both, right? Both timelines are in existence. But I feel like, honestly, it has a lot to do with, again, your resistance to this change. And it's not anything anyone can, like, again, control or force. That's why that energy came up, because it's not for us to dictate who goes through this or how they go through it or if they should. You can't drag anyone through this. It has to be a conscious choice. That's it. I mean, sure, they may see videos like this or streams like this that will make them think, right? Contemplate, but it has to be their choice. This has to be a personal choice. It has to be that way, So the most important thing you can do right now is focus on yourself, right? Your process, your journey, your soul searching, the reflection you're doing, what you're witnessing, being revealed to you in real time, okay? About what has actually been holding you back and why certain things have seemingly been projected into your reality over and over. And again, it has a lot to do with what we are upholding, these patterns, this conditioning, right? These beliefs, perspectives. So it's time to challenge them. It's time to change it, right? And explore other possibilities, right? Because things can certainly be better than they are. And they will be if we're willing to do that work, right? Have those conversations, right? Explore other ways of doing things and not wait for someone else to save the day or someone else to have the bright idea. If you have it, then use it, work with it, okay? In whatever shape or form you can. Exactly, the Hierophant, spirituality, knowledge. This is it. You're sitting on some kind of insight, information, knowledge, expertise, right? Wisdom. So how will you apply it? Okay. Because like I say, not everyone's going through these upgrades currently. Not everyone is, right? Especially those who are highly resistant to it. It's slowing their whole process down. But if you're open to it, right, even if it is presenting things that aren't necessarily easy to face, right? If you face it and see it for what it is, like, oh, this is just the old programming, oh, this is just the karmic circumstances, energies, patterns that I've been working through, that I've been healing and releasing, oh, these are just old fears that I've had, or this is what has been affecting me on a deeper level that I wasn't aware of, but now I'm aware of it, so I can release it now. If you come at it from that angle, I'm telling you, it is inevitable that you will see change with the Wheel of Fortune. It can't be any other way, right? You're changing something on such a core level, right? On such a foundational level. It has to be reflected in the physical. There is no other way. That's how it works, right? So you can expect dramatic changes again because you are elevating. So your reality will elevate as a result. Your life will elevate. Because you are going through a massive ascension. This is a real ascension, by the way, right? This isn't like, a lot of people use that word lightly, but a true ascension is, it requires a certain level of being cracked open, okay? And seeing the truth. So it is an intense process, but it does liberate you. And especially the mind. The mind can be a prison. And for most people, it has been. It has been weaponized against ourselves, right? But we are now claiming that back, right? Even the collective consciousness, it's like it's been hijacked, but we're now taking it back, So this is it, the star, harmony, renewal, you see? But that's what's going to help us to really embody again our divinity and show up in a way that feels just aligned with our truth and what feels right. And again, that will have a knock-on effect. So yeah, it's going to lead to a more harmonious existence for sure, right? But again, you always have the upheaval first. It's like the storm, and then you have the calm afterwards, right? The clearing. So that's kind of the energy here, but it's very promising, guys. It's very, very positive. Yeah, you have the Chariot, direction, willpower, and that's it. You're going to have so much clarity as a result. You're going to know exactly where you want to go. You're going to know exactly what you want to do because you're going to be aligned with your true will. And you're going to see like, oh, this is the point. It's not that source is trying to force me to do anything. It's like I'm just being awakened to my truth so I can actually make conscious decisions and choices. And it's not coming from pre-programming. It's not coming from what I've been conditioned to believe that I should do or should want, whether that's through society, sort of intergenerational beliefs passed through the family or things of that nature, right? It's coming solely from your spirit. So it's a game changer. Like it is huge how much this is going to change your life, right? But again, this is not a small undertaking. So if you need some time to yourself, I highly recommend taking some time for yourself right now, okay? Because it is a huge process. But again, now is the time to really think about what it is that you want, What do you actually want of this life? What do you want to experience? Because again, it's not about what anyone else wants. It's about what you want. If you want to live a harmonious life, if you want to see profound change on that level, then you have to be the embodiment of that. And this is what you're going through. A process that enables you to be that, Because it was always within you. It's just about cracking you open and removing everything that isn't that so you can see that it was there the whole time. That's it, And then your energy will shift, right? So that's the thing. It was always within you, right? But it's being brought out of you now. So yeah, this is amazing, okay? But I'm telling you, like, it will change things for sure. It will absolutely change things. So, but it's a choice. It is a choice. Wow, amazing. Yep. Page of Pentacles, reflection, diligence. Yeah. So this is it. Use what I always say, use your currency wisely, your time, your energy, your resources. Okay. Use it wisely. And that's it. Honestly, it just means that you're going to be very conscious and intentional with everything that you do. And not from a place of needing to scrutinize or overanalyze, but just actually operating from that space of, I'm aware of this, I'm aware of that. Okay, I need some information on that. Okay, I have it. Yeah, so I'm going to make an informed decision. This is what I feel I want to do. This is what I need to do. This is what feels like the right path. So this is what I'm going to do. And that's it. That's simple. No, I'm in an hour and going back and forth, giving yourself a million reasons why you can't or shouldn't, or it won't happen, or why it's bad. But just getting the insight, the information you need, and working with it, and just making an informed decision. Done. That's how you move from a place of like authority and will and sovereignty, is trusting in yourself to be able to make those decisions, for yourself. So again, you can't control anyone else, and it's not your place to do so. It's about how you move in the world. You'll be surprised. Okay, you'll be surprised who you can inspire, right? Priestess gate, multi-dimensional portal, priestess activation, higher connection. Yep. So all it's going to do means you're going to expand, and your gifts are going to be very strong, very heightened, and it's going to be easier for you to make that sort of intuitive choice as well. You're not going to feel like you have to circle back and forth in your mind. Like, you're just going to know. So clear cognizance, right? Amazing. Yeah. Sinai Desert Mountains. Yeah, Sinai Desert Mountains, sacred pilgrimage, divine revelation, resilience. And that's what this has been. This has been a sacred pilgrimage. You've been on a spiritual journey for the longest time, right? For most people, this has been years in the making, right? This has not been like a few weeks, right? This has been years in the making, because for a lot of people, they've been on this journey even before they realized they were on this journey. So it's been a long time coming, right? But you are ready for this truth, this unveiling, right? For certain knowledge to be brought to your conscious awareness now. And it's coming directly from source as well, by the way, because you're ready to receive it. You're open to the point where you can receive it. So this is powerful, okay? But again, this is the thing, these rites of passage, right? These initiations, it's not about, just hand choosing certain people for the sake of it. It's about who is actually willing to reach this point. Because like I told you, even from my own personal experience, the amount of people that have wanted me to mentor them, and it's because they just want like a shortcut, right? They want to be able to do all these weird and wonderful and magical things. But I'm like, you're missing the point. The fact that you're asking that means you're not ready, because you're missing the point. And I always start with saying, okay, can you sit with yourself? I've mentioned this to you guys before. Do you know how to sit with yourself? Can you sit in silence with yourself? Don't even worry about meditation. That's the next step. But can you sit with yourself? And that answer tells me a lot already. That's this energy right here, But because you have gone through your process, you have learned these lessons, you've had all these experiences, right? You've acquired a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and you're always learning, right? You're always open to learning and adapting and integrating new insights, right? And applying new wisdom. Because of that, that's why you're at this threshold here. That's why you can literally experience what we've been talking about with this portal, because it's an amplifier, right? So if you want to use it in that way for your ascension, you can, right? If you just want to manifest more money, you can do that too, right? But I'm just saying, like, in the grand scheme of things, this is what's being afforded to us at this time, right? So again, it's up to you whether you want to put a cap on it or not, but this is what it is, Like I said, wings has come out again, ascension, angelic infinite, divine impact. Never underestimate the impact you will have. Okay. And the Ankh as well. I'm telling you. Wow. So, guys, that's essentially it, okay? This is one of the most important messages, the most important activations and portals. We have sin, okay? I cannot stress this enough. So, if you know there are others that will need to hear this, because this is going to be up on the channel, right? So, you'll be able to watch it back whenever you want. If you know there are others that are open to this, right, that need to hear this, please share it with them, okay? Because honestly, this is one of the most powerful, potent, life-changing, self-actualizing portals I've ever seen in my life, right? The energy that's coming through is unlike anything else. It really is, okay? And that's because we are at that inflection point as a collective, right? We are going through this evolutionary shift. So, and it's literally to do with remembrance and consciousness, right? So it's like as much as we are expanding and evolving and growing, we are also coming back to ourselves in a major way as well, you know, because obviously for that to happen, we need to be willing to release anything that isn't truly of us, right? So that's what's happening, you know. Everything that was kind of doing the opposite, right? Creating atrophy. That's what we're essentially purging, you know? So, yeah, but it's like the stripping away. Yeah, that's funny. Seraphim angels, universe maker, pure source, rainbow light conception. This is coming from source directly, you know, the seraphim do. So, again, all this rainbow energy, yeah? It's very powerful. So, and look, Blue Lotus, you see the cracking open, higher consciousness, new earth activation, unified love is through unity. So, guys, that's essentially it, okay? So, I hope this message helps. Like I say, the extent you want to use this portal, it's highly up to yourself, okay? I have no judgment on that whatsoever. It's not my business, okay? But like I say, this is actually what's afforded to us at this time. And the reason you're listening is because you are ready. You are ready, okay? You've been seeing this. These themes have been coming up for you, right? So it's up to you, okay? You are ready. You've been on this pilgrimage, okay? But it's time. It's time to step through that portal now. That stargate is open, right? Like that priestess gate that we saw. Oh my gosh. Guess what's under this card? I just moved Seraphim Angels, yeah? Sophia, Source Mother, Sacred Wisdom, Elevation, okay? The Mother is welcoming you with open arms, you know, but it's up to you whether you want to cross that threshold. Wow, that is incredible. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your evening with me. And I'm so glad I was able to do this message because I knew it was going to be important, right? But even me, I'm just like, goodness me, you know, like, yeah, but I knew it, you know, like I say, even just being so connected to what's going on with the collective consciousness all the time and then going through my own process, I was like, I don't think people understand how big this is, you know, and to be able to actually lay it out like this and really go into it, like, yeah, it is huge. It will change things. I'm telling you, right? But this is why it's so important to not get caught up with the distortion and the distraction and the noise and anything that makes you feel like we are doomed, because we are not, okay? We had to see the, you know, the nitty gritty. We had to see the underbelly of society, okay? Because again, we are afforded with an opportunity to set a new standard, right? Set new principles, raise the bar, you know, especially now that we are entering a new age. Civilization, as we know, is fundamentally going through major changes. So how are we going to pave the way, right? We need to do that as a collective, right? So initiatives that support a healthier, more unified, a more balanced, a more respectful, compassionate, wise way of coinciding, coexisting, and, you know, working together is going to be the way forward, you know. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this will, how this will transpire. And look at this. This is perfect. Lyra constellation, star mother, universal birthplace, ancient origin. So we even got the Lyra energy coming through there, which is perfect with this Sirius portal, this Lionsgate portal energy that's in effect at play right now. So amazing. I honestly feel like there are a lot of intergalactic energies, presences, beings, divine beings that are observing humanity closely right now. And that's why I feel like a lot of people are having some really otherworldly encounters, right? Because there is a lot of like, it's not scrutiny at all, but just observation. There are a lot of eyes on us right now, to see what choices are we going to make? What are we going to do with this opportunity that we're afforded right now? So, and like we saw, even with everything that's going on an astrological level, like we've been seeing transits and alignments that we've not seen in, like, in some cases even like millennia, right? Hundreds of years, decades, right? So it's a very auspicious time for profound change, but it's up to us to determine how we're going to use it. They are just opportunities, energies, portals, right? But it's up to us to use it in a way that's beneficial. All right. But guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Enjoy your evening. I hope you do have a wonderful one. And I'm going to be live tomorrow on TikTok. I'm going to be doing messages where I connect with your guides and see what you need to know at this time, okay? So anything that you need to know that's going to be beneficial to you, I don't doubt you'll be connected to this in some way for some, okay? But whatever you need to know, that's what we're going to look at, okay? So if you can join me on TikTok tomorrow, it will be great to see you there, okay? But for the time being, yes, I'm going to have some food and I'm going to get some rest. But yeah, incredible, right? Unreal energies. So guys, thank you so much. Take care. And until then, bye. Snacks, yeah. See you later, guys. Bye.